Taking a deep shot. Jefferson's got separation. And Jefferson still going. See you later, Justin Jefferson. Got him. He's got him. Tyreek
You are now listening to the 302 Birds Fantasy Football Podcast, proudly powered by the Sleeper app, hosted by Dennis and Benny. Let's take it to the show.
And welcome into the 302 Fantasy Show. I'm your studio host, Benny Pinella, and we're going to have Dennis with us today. It's going to be an awesome show. It's week 8 of the NFL season already. That means that we're getting closer to the fantasy football playoffs. If you're in a 12-team league or a 10-team league and you have 13 weeks, that means you only have 5 games remaining before your playoffs start. So you're going to need information, and me and Dennis are so happy and ready to get you lock and loaded today. We're going to bring in Dennis here. Dennis, man, week 8 of the NFL season. We saw Thursday Night Football. He's praising Sidney Brown, who's coming back for the Eagles.
You're damn right, because that Reed Blankenship guy wasn't in the top 5 players last week. Screw you, Reed Blankenship. Screw you. The king is back. All right, let's get to fantasy. I'm done.
I'll say that if there's one person we know who's not watching the show, it is definitely Reed Blankenship. But if you are watching the show, and you have anything,
no, hold on. Dalton don't like this one. This is for Reed Blankenship.
You absolutely suck.
There you go. Yeah. The lore never ends, right?
we have to get Dennis one of those like zany boards that have all the morning show sound effects. We'll have to get that rolling for him at some point. But if you are watching this, you have a fan question, start sit-em question, last minute injury replacements. Of course, we have fan questions you can ask throughout the show, and we'll get to you guys as your questions roll in. But Dennis, all right, let's get this started. Thursday Night Football, Rams-Vikings, 30-20 Rams. That was a big, I would call it an upset, even though the Vikings were on the road. But what were your thoughts on that game? I mean, that was a very interesting game. Obviously, there was the controversial ending with the face mask. They didn't call that in the end zone. But Dennis, what a wild game. Great game for fantasy, but what a wild game to have Thursday Night Football.
I think it was ruined by a blatant ref looking at the flag. But I didn't have nobody in that game, but man, stat-wise for everybody was all over the place. That's the type of game, if you got a player on either team and they're going back and forth like that, shootouts like that are the fun ones. Now, the ones where you're getting a team where they win 6-0 or 9-0, those aren't usually the fun games for us, but fantasy-wise, when you get a shootout like that and they're just going back and forth and you don't know what the outcome is going to be, I mean, that's what you live for. Minnesota getting the win. I think it was Minnesota got the win, right? I can't remember.
It was the Rams that got the win 30-20, but with 1 minute and a half remaining, Sam Darnold driving. They were backed up at their own goal line. Face mask isn't called. They called a safety that effectively ends the game. It was 28-20 at that point. That safety effectively ended the game for the Rams, or the Vikings at that point. The Rams got the victory. But yeah, some big performers in this one. Matt Stafford, the big one, 24.76 fantasy points. Kyron Williams, 22.6. Justin Jefferson, the leader for the Vikings, he had 19.5. We'll talk a little bit about, because he got basically all the targets for the Vikings. Jordan Addison got virtually nothing, 4.2. So I think moving forward, we know where that's going to sit. Sam Darnold, despite the safety, 18.2. So I think he did fine. There were some rumors, and we'll get to those, about possibly a trade between these two teams. And then Puka Nacua, Puka's back, baby. 18.10 fantasy points, 3 Rams receivers in double figures, Dennis. This was this was literally everyone's wet dream for Rams wide receivers. Puka, there we go.
Good to see Puka back. Glad to see him healthy. The Rams could get back to where they need to be if they can get Cooper Kupp back to full health. The Rams are always deadly when you have players that can open up the field and give Stafford what he needs. I still think they have a running back problem, but let them get comfortable, let them get happy. You know what I mean? But as far as the Vikings, you can't just keep giving the ball to Jefferson because eventually it's just going to backfire in your face. So we'll see what happens with the Vikings. I mean, it's one day at a time. If you're a Justin Jefferson guy and you got him on your team, God bless you, because you're going to walk away. You know what I mean?
100%. And it was, 18.10 points for Puka, 16.10 for Cooper Kupp, and then Demarcus Robinson, 17.5, though that was on 2 touchdowns and 2 catches. But I think the interesting storyline coming out of this, and James, he said it the best. Addison didn't do well, and with him back, Vikings passing attack, the fear was that he would take away from Justin Jefferson, and it looks like it's still going to be the Jefferson show. It doesn't look like. There was a while there where Jalen Naylor was getting catches a lot out of this Vikings offense, but it looks like this is definitely going to be the Jefferson show. Definitely, it doesn't matter whoever is going to be on this Vikings passing attack. It's Justin Jefferson and Sam Darnold, and that's just how it's going to be for this Vikings.
When you're making the money that Justin Jefferson is, if you're not producing, you, for the love of God, better deliver something.
That's rough, James. They're up for having Jordan Addison. My wife has him in her league, and I'm like, I may want to consider dropping him, but we'll get to that in a little bit. We'll get to the drops and whatnot coming up a little bit. Again, if you have fan questions, please let us know, and we can get rolling on that. Final storyline out of this, Dennis. There were rumors before this game that Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford would have been traded. And the hot rumor for Stafford was that the Vikings were in on Stafford. So the win obviously changes that. You had Sean McVay come out and say, we're not trading Cooper Kupp. Stafford's here. But that's pretty interesting. The Rams were that close to kind of blowing this up.
If they're dumb enough to get rid of Stafford, then that team doesn't know what they're doing. Obviously, like they did when they disrespected their St. Louis fans by leaving St. Louis, all because of a stadium issue. But it's the Rams. Nothing surprises me anymore when they do something stupid or idiotic. So I rest my case.
I completely agree. I think if the Rams, that was a weird storyline coming out of that game. The Up for Debate podcast says Addison was fired up and mad on Instagram. I'd be mad too if I only got 4.2 fantasy points in I think he was like one of his first games back. It was kind of sad that you just didn't see much of.
If he was mad on Instagram, then maybe you should suck it up and find a way to get open so the ball would go to you.
I love that.
Because maybe you
absolutely suck.
I love the Jerry the King Lawler at the end. Next week, the Rams are at Seattle, and the Vikings are going to be home against the Colts for Sunday Night Football. So that'll be 2 interesting matchups there. Some big news, Dennis. Jamison Williams suspended again. This time it's not gambling. It's a 2-game suspension for violating the league's substance abuse policy, their PED policy. So after getting some great production out of Jamison Williams, some really fantastic stuff these first couple weeks out of Jamison Williams, Dennis, he's out for the next 2 games.
Stop, bro. Stop. Stop, bro. Stop.
Well, we'll hopefully see hopefully the PEDs didn't influence. Hopefully the PEDs didn't influence his fantasy production. But I think if you are an owner of Sam Laporta, or you're an owner of Amon-Ra St. Brown, or maybe you want to dive into maybe another receiver in the Detroit offense these next 2, if you're just trying to stream a wide receiver for Detroit, that might be a place you touch right there. Another big storyline here. DeAndre Hopkins traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. They just keep getting bailed out.
That's my opinion of that.
DeAndre,
here's my advice for you, sir. Even if this never gets to you, cut your hair. Go f yourself. You're washed up. You can't play the game no more. You're irrelevant. And
You absolutely suck.
Patrick Mahomes cannot make you good again.
Well, so when we get to our start sits, or really our drop segment, which will be coming up in a little bit. Again, if you have any questions about your lineup, please let us know in the comments. We've got Enough for Debate podcast. We got James. He's been throwing some good stuff in there too. Let us know. We'll make your picks. We'll try to help you with your picks. But DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs, if you have him, you're happy. But my thing is, I think the range for Hopkins rest of season, he could be like the 25th wide receiver, or he could be like a top 35 to top 40 wide receiver. Patrick Mahomes doesn't look like the same Patrick Mahomes anymore, Dennis.
Do you know what it is?
Is this the quarterback kids? We're going down this road.
It's the kid's curse, man. Stop. Look. All right, here. Let's do this. Young quarterbacks in this league: Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young. Who else? The kid that tore his ACL from Minnesota. For the love of God, Cam Ward at University of Miami, 7-0, beating FSU last night. Shedeur Sanders. Don't have kids when you play in the league, man. Wait until you're at like the end of your career and you're playing for like the Jets or the Browns, where you go for your career to die. For the love of God. Okay.
That's the storyline with Dennis right there. Don't have kids. I think that this offense just wants to run the ball. If you have Isaiah Pacheco, if you have Kareem Hunt, I think those are the guys to kind of get. Travis Kelce, I mean, even in not having Rashid Rice and not having Juju Smith-Schuster, or if you're Tom Brady, Schuster-Smith, he said that on one of the broadcasts recently. I think like if you have Travis Kelce, you're probably really frustrated. He's tied in 15 still. So I'm looking at this Chiefs offense, and I'm not really impressed by what I'm seeing. If you have Patrick Mahomes, we'll get this in the drop segment. I think he's a guy you might want to consider letting off your roster. And it kind of is wild to say that. But getting to our final topic of the news segment, there's some trades brewing here, Dennis. We're not done. So we had Devontae Adams last week. We had Amari Cooper last week. We have DeAndre Hopkins this week. And then it looks like, according to some rumors out there, Christian Kirk and Deontay Johnson are wide receivers that are available. Where do what's your take on the wide receivers being moved all over the place? The compensation's been kind of weird, but also, if you're a Deontay Johnson or Christian Kirk owner, where do you want these guys to end up?
Well, Christian Kirk's washed up, so send him to the Jets or the Browns for his career to die. The dude's not produced anything to be relevant, and God knows how many years he has. 2 good games out of an 18-game season, or he'll average 5 points a game or something. That don't win you a football game. Who was the other one again?
Deontay Johnson, for the wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. They signed him in the offseason. He looked really good when they had Andy Dalton, but Andy Dalton's out this week with a finger injury he sustained in a car accident.
Well, as for being somebody that's a fireman, when you're a quarterback, don't drive like a moron. Maybe be safe if you know you got to play football for a team where your tickets are only $10 because you can't put people in the stands because you
absolutely suck.
I feel like we need a segment of the show where it's like, this is life advice with Dennis.
Deontay Johnson, congratulations, sir. When's the last time you were relevant?
Ooh. He had that 1 year in Pittsburgh where
one year does not make your career, sir.
No, if you remember, it was the year where he didn't catch a single touchdown pass. It was the weirdest year. I'm sure someone in the comments remembers that. I had him on my fantasy team that year. It was so frustrating because he had no touchdown equity. So I
get what you're saying. I predicted Deontay Johnson will be the next Antonio Brown. and lose his mind.
That's what happens when you play. Well, that's what happens when you're playing Carolina. I think that's definitely going to happen to like a George Pickens. Like George Pickens to me seems like he's just on the edge of wanting to snap. But I have to look at it. Christian Kirk, he to me, like with what's happening in San Francisco, Christian Kirk could fit really well with what the 49ers do offensively. They don't necessarily need a speed demon. They need someone that's just going to run crisp routes, get open, and then Brock Purdy delivered on schedule. I think for Deontay Johnson, man, it would be really fun if Deontay Johnson ended up in an offense like the Dallas Cowboys.
I mean, I'll take him in Philadelphia if he wants to replace Jahan Dotson, because Dotson freaking blows donkey nuts.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because the Eagles were supposedly in on the DeAndre Hopkins trade. And then I heard this very little because obviously there was a short window for it to actually kind of take form. The Eagles were a team that called on Cooper Kupp.
Wow, no, they called Philadelphia. Philadelphia didn't call for him. We got enough white boys. We don't need that one that's washed up and always. No. We got Cooper DeJean. That's all we need. I don't know, and I don't even recognize that other shithead that sucks because that guy's better. But we got enough white boys. No, we got Lane Johnson. We got Landon Dickerson. We got Dalton's favorite friend, Jack Driscoll or Drac Drizzling shit, whatever his name is. We got the center kid Cam Jurgens. We had the great Jason Kelsey. And Travis Kelsey's overrated, so fuck him.
Would have been interesting to see how Cooper Kupp would have fit with this team. But Deontay Johnson to me is like, the Ravens or the Dallas Cowboys. He might not even fetch a 5th round pick.
Deontay Johnson in Philadelphia would be like when they had Torrey Smith for the Super Bowl year.
That's a good comparison.
He'd be the extra cushion for Philadelphia. Because, again, everything's going to A.J. Brown. Once you add that factor into it, you put him in there, then you open up Smitty. Once Smitty's covered, everybody's going to think, who you going to go to next? Dallas Goedert, but he's crippled with a hamstring. Replace the bum. We should have never got rid of Zach Ertz. Sorry. But
the Eagles could do with some tight end depth, especially with Grant Calcaterra.
Look, I'm proud of myself. And you even said it was dumb, and I don't care. I'm proud of myself. I did a trade in fantasy for the first time in 5 years that I've ever done. I got Xavier Worthy and Saquon freaking Barkley. Somebody's getting a head cut off in fantasy the next 4 weeks. Don't mess with me.
But what I'll say is, so you got Saquon, you got Xavier Worthy. Saquon's, if you can get Saquon on your team, you do the trade to get Saquon on your team, especially now that he has no buys moving forward. He is, RB1, I think, moving forward in fantasy. Where my concern was with your trade, Dennis, is you gave up Tyreek Hill and you gave up DeAndre Swift, who I see DeAndre Swift and I see Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill rest of season, if Tua's brain is not scrambled eggs, he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver. He 100% will. And then Swift kind of gets a lot of the usage at running back for Chicago, almost to like the Chicago wide receivers' detriment. It's a very weird situation they have kind of set up in Chicago with all of the wide receivers that kind of are hit and miss. And then the running backs just get a ton of work. So if I'm on your side with that trade, Saquon's obviously a great haulback. Xavier Worthy, he's a fine wide receiver. I think he's more of a flex option right now.
I mean, that's all I really wanted him for. I mean, I got enough depth at receiver. I'm good. I mean, I lost freaking Chris Godwin. Thanks a lot, freaking Baltimore. Assholes.
Oh, we have a question here by...
This is why I will get to Jack's question in a second. The Baltimore Ravens should be banned from the NFL. Their stadium should be burned to the fucking ground. Ray Lewis's statue should go to hell, even though they should just move that to Miami because he played for the Hurricanes. God bless Ray Lewis in Miami, but in Baltimore, fuck you.
Wow. All right. We have a couple questions coming in.
What are you doing, Jack? No, don't start that washed up bum because he is the drizzling. No, go Chubb or Montgomery. I promise you that'll be the best thing you can do.
Start D-Hop this week or Chubb or Montgomery. I will say, honestly, so Detroit this week is taking on the Titans. I would avoid – the Titans are really good against running backs and tight ends, so I would avoid – if you can avoid Laporta this week, he's probably a guy to avoid. And running back-wise, I'm not sure that's going to be a game that's going to favor the run too well. So honestly, Nick Chubb, the Browns are going up against the Ravens. Somebody in that Browns offense is going to do something, and the Ravens defense – the Ravens defense is pretty soft. So I would say Nick Chubb, but honestly, D-Hop or Chubb isn't bad because the Chiefs are facing the Raiders.
Ravens going to break something on Chubb like they did Godwin. Fucking bastards.
To answer your question, Jack, so Dennis says Chubb or Montgomery. I would say D-Hop is a safe start, but if you want to pick another one, Chubb isn't bad either. I would kind of rank him that way. We have another question here by Sahil. Sahil says, hey, is it worth playing Daniels over Caleb today? Daniels will probably play, but this is, he's got the injury, tough matchup. How would that affect him? Would it be better to just play Caleb or Goff? Thank you very much for the help.
Hold on. Leave his thing up there. I gotta ask a question. Sahil, let me ask you a question, bro. How's it feel to know that your stadium tickets is only $10? How's it feel to have Bryce Young as your quarterback?
Oh, he's a Panthers fan. Oh, goodness.
How's it feel to know y'all signed Cam Newton
That's
back
tough.
And he sucked? Look, bro, if we got room at Lincoln Financial Field, if you want to be an Eagles fan, if you want to know what winning feels like, but bruh, something gotta give, man, because y'all ain't woo in the Carolina.
Sahil said, I'm choosing not to watch this week. Panthers facing the Broncos.
God, man, look, y'all be better off calling Tim Tebow out of retirement than watching anything going on in y'all. God,
yikes. Broncos Panthers today. That should Broncos Panthers is like the ultimate Thursday night football game. It's just the boring team versus.
Hey man, Bo Nix is starting to show out. Calm down.
I like Bo Nix, and I actually will get to that in a little bit here. I'll say this for the question: Jaden Daniels didn't practice this week with the team. So he's probable, but I mean that's a. Week? I don't think Jaden Daniels wasn't for Thursday practice. And again, this is just a report I heard. He wasn't at practice. Like he wasn't participating in practice. He was there. He was on the sidelines.
Jaden Daniels play football.
Oh goodness. Sahil, I'll say
in RG3. You play for a team that they don't care about their stadium and people get hurt. Y'all tried to kill Jalen Hurts.
Start Caleb this week. I think this game's going to be a shootout. We'll get to this in our games of the week to watch. I think this is going to be a shootout, Bears versus Commanders. So I'd say start Caleb. Caleb to me is in the same situation as like CJ Stroud and Jordan Love. You don't necessarily want any of their wide receivers, but you do want the quarterback because they have all those wide receivers. And Caleb right now is loaded with a bunch of weapons.
Take Goff, man. Don't whatever you do.
Goff's facing the Titans.
Who cares?
They're a pretty solid defense.
And whoa, you better take Brian Thomas Jr. That boy delivering. I'm telling you, don't take Zay Flowers. He might have a toe on the line like the other guy did.
We have M-Wo here, Zay Flowers or Brian Thomas. So Brian Thomas obviously going up against the Bears, Zay Flowers against the Browns. I don't know if Zay's even going to play today. So Brian Thomas, just, don't even bother, stressing. I would say just plug Brian Thomas, and he's a fantastic. And we'll talk about this. I think he's a running back next year that can find himself in like the 3rd to 2nd round range in fantasy drafts. Brian Thomas, Brian Thomas, the wide receiver. Brian Thomas. I was going to say, I was thinking of Brian Robinson. Brian Thomas.
What are you talking about?
Brian Robinson, the running back for the Commanders, is a running back. I think that's going to move. Brian Thomas, the wide receiver. I have lack of sleep brain. I think that's what's happening with me right now. But Brian Thomas against the Packers. And someone's going to have to catch passes there. Zay Flowers might not play against the Browns. I'd say Brian Thomas there. But Brian Robinson, the running back, is a guy I think could be in like the second or third round next year in fantasy drafts. All right. So those are some of the fan questions. Again, if you have any, please, dive into the comments. We are going to be taking fan questions all day. We have some games to watch here, Dennis. And the big one for me is this Cardinals-Dolphins game because it's the return of Tua. And Kyler Murray's been a little interesting. He hasn't.
Miami?
I believe it's going to be in.
No, they can't be in Miami because the Hurricanes played at home last night.
No, it's Cardinals at Dolphins.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Again, the Dolphins have their own stadium. They don't have to worry about the Hurricanes.
No, they don't. Dolphins share the stadium with the Hurricanes, bro.
Talking about the actual hurricane, the storm?
No.
Or you mean the Florida Panthers?
No.
The Miami Hurricanes. I thought the Miami Hurricanes have their own stadium.
No, the Orange Bowl was torn down so they could build the shitty Miami Marlins stadium.
Oh goodness. Okay. Well,
come on, bro. I know, I know college ball.
The Cardinals are at the Dolphins at 1:00.
Okay, so they had a quick turnaround to fix the stadium.
Sure. I mean, it's how hard is it to flip a stadium? It can't be that hard.
Well, I mean, their field's natural grass, so they would have to repaint the whole thing. But, we got a question there.
We do looks like that is the Chivalry King, Ramondre Stevenson, Nick Chubb, DJ Moore in the flex. Standard.
I don't know, man. I think I'd go with Chubb on that one or Ramondre, but.
DJ Moore against the Commanders defense is enticing. He also has Andrews or Tucker Kraft. Jordan loves
your quarterback. God bless you.
If Love's your quarterback, I would start Kraft at tight end. But for your flex, I would say either Chubb or Moore. Ramondre Stevenson, they're going up against the Jets today. That'll be in Foxborough, so I think it's going to be a bit of a sloppy game there.
Yeah, but didn't you tell me the last time you mentioned Kraft? Yeah, go with Kraft, and then he didn't deliver at all.
Kraft's been all tight ends this year have been kind of up and down. Tight end's been a weird position this year, Dennis. The top 10 tight ends, like 8 of them weren't even drafted. So, and I might be even less than that. I might be like 6. But like Ramondre Stevenson, he's going against the Jets. I think he's one fumble away from them just like damning him to the bowels of depth chart hell. Nick Chubb against the Ravens, he's getting going. First game back last week was promising. DJ Moore, though, against the Commanders is almost too enticing. Like, I have DJ Moore as my starting wide receiver this week because it's just such a great matchup. It's going to be a shootout. I would say go with Moore and then start Kraft, and you have at least that Love Kraft stack to kind of fall back on, and then Moore in the flexes. If he doesn't go off, I mean, that's the projections at least would tell you did something. You did something well. It just didn't happen. That's what I would say. But so Dolphins hosting the Cardinals, return of Tua. I think if you are a Waddle owner or you're a Hill owner, Dennis, you're rejoicing.
I mean, my receiver lineup is this. I'll tell everybody what mine is. So I have Tyreek Hill for this week, and then he is going bye-bye. AJ Brown, Romeo Dobbs, Tyreek Hill, Brian Thomas Jr., Jalen McMillan. On the bench, you got Bateman down there. I got Lazard. I got Godwin on IR. I got Keon Coleman still sitting there. Like, I'm loaded.
So you're firmly starting Tyreek. You're starting Tyreek Hill. And if you had Waddle, are you starting Waddle this week too?
No.
You wouldn't start him even with the return of Tua? You and that fart sound effect. Ravens versus the Browns.
And unfortunately, probably by the end of this game, Tua is going to look like Sloth from the Goonies. So, I mean. Hey, you guy.
Oh, my God. Oh, my Lord. Yeah, his brain might be scrambled eggs. If he gets hurt one more time. if he gets hurt again, I just wouldn't play him anymore. Ravens and Browns. Jameis Winston is going to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns now, so that passing attack might open up a little bit. Cedric Tillman was a hot waiver ad. What are your thoughts on this matchup? It's the Browns versus a team that used to play in Cleveland once upon a time. The Ravens once upon a time were the Browns back in the 90s before they moved to Baltimore.
Well, I'll just say Cleveland because Browns make me think of a toilet. And the Super Bowl that they'll virtually never get to, but I guess you could always take the Browns to a certain bowl. But
is it sad that the Ravens moved out of Cleveland and they almost immediately won a Super Bowl, and then a couple, 10 years later they won another Super Bowl, and that entire time the Browns have just been utterly garbage?
The lights went out for 32 seconds and Ray Lewis didn't kill anybody. Holy shit! You murdering prick. But besides the point, as far as the Cleveland Browns, I'm very, 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 very happy for Jameis Winston to get a start, and that man that has a really bad problem with touching things that he shouldn't touch is no longer playing. Just saying, sorry, Deshaun Watson, but I think you just need to retire and give up on life because you've just ruined everything. You are about as bad as Johnny Manziel, so have at it.
Speaking of ruining things, Joseph chimes in and says, CMC ruined my fantasy season.
Well, why would you fucking sign him? He's a bum.
I'll say this. I drafted CMC in one league. I'm 4-3 in that league. I've just found a way to scrap out wins. If you have him, though, Joseph, I don't know what your record is. If you can comment your record, we can kind of give you some more advice on this. If you have him and he's been on your IR, if you can find a way to get to 3 wins, I think you're fine the rest of the year. Because once you get past that point, he's 0-7. You're done. You're cooked.
I'm 9-5.
9-5, and how are you 9-5 in fantasy?
Because my league is weird that I'm a part of. He has like where you get 2 wins or something.
Okay,
and you have a certain amount of points. So I'm 9-5. I'm delivering on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, Joe, you're 0-7. You're cooked, bud. I'm sorry. God bless you,
Joe. Word of advice, brother: do not draft a bum like CMC. My legs hurt. I can't play. I got a cramp. My hammy hurts. My brother tore his ACL. Everybody feel bad for him. Well, maybe if you didn't play for a team that had a cocky clown like Debo freaking Crybaby Samuel, man, I wish somebody would cue the thing of him crying when they lost the Super Bowl. All right, I'm done before I get too fired up. Can we go to the next thing? I don't want to talk about no 49ers.
I agree, Randy. CMC is a stud when healthy.
Hi, Randy. I love you. He's a nice guy.
Great guy right there. Falcons,
you don't
Buccaneers.
Even know it.
I mean, it's a good take. That's a good take. CMC is a stud when he's healthy. That's
How
why.
can
That's
you
why
love him. You don't know Randy.
I didn't say I love him. I say he's a great guy.
But you don't know him. See?
Dennis always hating. Love you too, buddy. I love you too, brother.
No. Yeah, see?
That's a nice comment from Randy right there.
Jalen
Falcons,
McMillan's
Buccaneers. You said Jalen McMillan's hurt?
No, he's stepping. You're saying he's
starting. Okay. No Evans, no Godwin. McMillan was in my opinion, McMillan was the number 1 wide receiver to add on fantasy this week if you could get him. You got him? Yeah, you throw him right into your lineup.
I got Cade Otton too.
Cade Otton's weird. So
come on, bro.
I think he'll see a production increase. I don't know if it's going to be enough for me to be comfortable with just him as a tight end moving forward. But this week you're starting Cade Otton against the Falcons. No Evans, no Godwin. That, in my opinion, their first game was a shootout. The second game,
Godwin, dude, fuck nope, screw that. I feel so bad for him, dude. Like, I played football against that dude. Like, if he got in front of you, you were cooked. You were done. If he puts his foot in the ground, he's gonna snap your ankle. I will say this proudly: I got cut up by an NFL receiver, and he made me look like dog shit. but I did hit him one time. I can say that I openly tackled Chris Godwin once.
There you go. Listen, you did more than a lot of other players right now. We'll say it was so heartbreaking to see that injury for Godwin. He's such a great talent, good person. And with him out, Jalen McMillan is the wide receiver to get, Joe. I know your team's 0-7, but you pick up McMillan, you might be 1-7, maybe a close 0-8.
Dude, really, like you make that kid have no hope saying some shit like that. Say you're sorry.
Sorry, Joe. Next up, we talked about Bears Commanders already. Bills versus Seattle, Dennis. No DK, cares. Possibly no DK for Seattle.
Nobody cares.
And then the other game to watch is Eagles and Bengals.
Let's go, Sidney Brown. You're goated.
So you're saying the Eagles defense is going to be pretty good against this?
Sidney Brown's going to have a pick six and probably return it for 99 yards again. Blankenship's going to finally get replaced. A.J. Brown's going to have a touchdown and probably 100 yards receiving at least. Saquon's going to have a nice touchdown. The tush push for Jalen Hurts, he's going to get a touchdown. Smitty's probably going to go off for 125. Dotson will probably have 2 yards.
Just the ultimate hater is Dennis right there.
Why am I a hater, man? He ain't done nothing all year.
I think this is the game where Dotson might be like in deep leagues. He might be.
Benny, you gonna sit here and tell me you don't agree that freaking Dotson has been the drizzling shits this year?
I don't think it's a Dotson problem. I think it's the offense isn't scheming up wide receivers to get open consistently. Right now, what makes me a little fearful of the Eagles offense, and this is something that they've definitely talked about on the main show for 302. Which, by the way, follow them at 302BIRDS. Great stuff with their recaps.
Wednesdays, 9 p.m.
There you go. What scares me at the Eagles offense right now is it's basically run the ball with Saquon or deep shots to AJ. And they don't get guys open over the middle. They don't get guys open outside. They run those screens a lot and they get some yardage. But I think for Dotson's a guy, he's a rhythm wide receiver. We saw it in Penn State. And, you get him with some out routes, you get him with some quick slants, and Jalen just doesn't do a lot of that. So I'm a little concerned. I don't know. The Eagles offense is a bit of a conundrum for me. But Joe, the 2017 Browns got nothing on my 2024 fantasy team. God bless you. God bless you, my friend. Eagles versus Bengals. I will say that's definitely going to be a fantasy football honey hole. A lot of scoring in that one. And then Sunday Night Football, we kind of talked about it a little bit. Dallas versus San Francisco. CMC set to return after week 9. So, Joe, you are going to get some late season surges. You might be able to play spoiler for some people here. CMC coming back. Or, use that leverage to trade CMC and get a haul back because I think there is going to be a market out there for.
Oh, yeah, he's going to come back after week 9, all right? And he's going to go right back to the freaking injury list. Fucking bum.
Everyone's a bum to Dennis. Goodness gracious. And then the Monday night game, this is a weird one. Giants versus the Steelers.
Who the hell wants to watch that?
Yeah, why do they think that would be a primetime game? Why are the Steelers getting so many primetime games?
Because it's Russell Wilson and he's crying. Sierra didn't give him no goodies no more.
Randy, going back to the Bengals-Eagles game, apparently Eagles, I don't know, is that true? The Eagles haven't won in Cincinnati in 20 years.
Very, very true. We've tied, but yeah, we
I know. I remember the tie. The tie was weird. I remember Donovan McNabb didn't even know.
He was drunk. You don't remember that man's got a drinking problem? Freaking alcoholic. Freaking throwing up Campbell's soup on the freaking football field in the Super Bowl. Freaking bum.
I guess we're going to find out with this Pittsburgh game. Is Russ for real, and will Malik Neighbors bounce back?
No, Russ ain't for real. Russ is washed up. Why do you think they pushed him out of Denver?
Well, it's interesting you say that Russell Wilson is washed up because now we can get to our waiver wire pickups. Again, if you have questions for your lineup, let us know. Of course, we'll answer the questions as they come in on the show today. Waiver wire pickups for me. He's only owned in 13% of leagues. 3 touchdowns last week. Best performance by a quarterback against the Jets. His week 8 to 14 matchups are against the Giants, and they're on a bye. Washington, Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Cleveland again. Russell Wilson is a quarterback you can pick up from your waiver wire right now. And I think he's viable, Dennis. I think he's a viable quarterback.
Moving on. So I got Jalen McMillan and Bateman for Baltimore this week on my waiver wire. So. But, yeah, that's who I took. I wouldn't take that freaking Dalton. Dalton, what do you want? Aaron Jones. Chubb, you crazy? He going to break a leg again.
Chubb or Aaron Jones in my flex. So Aaron Jones already played, though. So if you can put him in your flex, that'd be, interesting. I would say go with Chubb for the upside. But Aaron Jones, I think already, because the Vikings game was Thursday night.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I would say Chubb. I would say Chubb because we know what Aaron Jones got. But, Chubb in that situation. But, obviously, if you start Chubb and he gets you nothing, that's going to be frustrating. Oh, he kept Jones. Okay. Yeah, I don't know, man. Jones in that offense is interesting. Very interesting. So you picked your wide receivers. You said Jalen McMillan, good pick. I think he's going to get a lot of upside there. Cedric Tillman, wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns. He's only rostered in 2% of leagues. Obviously, it's going to increase this week. Led the team in targets. New quarterback, kind of like the vibes. My other wide receiver to pick up, especially with the matchup against the Panthers today, is Troy Franklin. Now, we talked a little bit about Bo Nix, Dennis. College teammates with Bo Nix. Only rostered in 13% of leagues. Back-to-back 10-plus point weeks, and he's done it in multiple ways. He had the touchdown against the Chargers. I keep wanting to call him San Diego. Against the Chargers. Last week against the Saints, he had 5 catches for 50 yards. That's how he got there. Week 8 versus the Panthers, they allow a ton of points per week against wide receivers, Dennis. Troy Franklin is my wide receiver to go and get.
So you're telling me he went to Oregon with Bo Nix?
Yes.
My only question is, are they going to do the flying V?
The Ducks.
Fucking stupid ass goddamn Oregon. 50 freaking jerseys for no reason. Chip Kelly freaking.
Well, I'll say this.
I don't think it's going to do anything. I think he's going to absolutely
suck.
fucking garbage clown.
I'll say the Broncos probably have the worst uniforms that Troy Franklin's ever put on. Those uniforms. I'll figure out one day on how to just grab stuff off the internet and put it up on StreamYard. But the uniforms the Broncos have are absolutely heinous. Do yourself a favor and don't Google them later today. Those are some of our waiver wire pickups. Again, good defenses to pick up and stream. What do you got, tennis on Oregon?
No, I'm looking at Randy's fucking comment. No, Randy, you don't start that bum. You start the GOAT. You start the God. You start the OTC. You start the one-man wrecking crew. You start the man that don't cry over a cramp when he's in Tampa because he's a bum. He don't go in the locker room, I need an IV because my leg hurts. Freaking clown. No, stay on the bench and guard the water, white boy, because you're a bum. You are a bum. You've got 2 picks and everybody thinks you're God's green earth, all because you had a game-winning interception. Well, guess what, sir? You didn't have a 99-yard one taken for a touchdown. Yeah, you helped win the game, but were you on the field to win the game? No, the offense was on the game. You just helped them get to that point. So thank you, sir, but you're still a freaking bum that can't tackle.
Joseph says, start Reed Blankenship with 2 more interceptions than anyone else this season.
Y'all go ahead. Y'all go ahead and keep believing in that clown. And when he goes and gets hurt because he led with his head again, y'all go ahead. Y'all go ahead and keep talking about a dude that leads with his head and gets a concussion and messes up his career because he don't know how to tackle because he's learning like a freaking peewee football player again. I don't care if the Eagles lost that game, Joe. It's all good. The man still had a 99-yard touchdown. Reed Blankenship is 77 yards behind Sidney Brown because he don't know how to get up and run with the football. He's too busy hitting the quan or the gritty thing in the end zone thinking he's riding the witch's broom. He's a bum. He's garbage. He's a clown. He can go f himself.
Let's get back to okay.
Y'all done pissed me off.
I love the people. People are stirring him up. People are stirring Dennis up. Oh, he's so angry. He took himself off. Oh boy. While we're trying to get Dennis back here, we did get a question by Jesse Winchester. Hey boys, Aaron Rodgers or Baker Mayfield. So
Baker.
Yeah, Baker in a matchup there. You roll with that, Jesse. Rodgers is going up against the Patriots defense. Their defense has been pretty decent against the pass. So I would say start Baker against the Falcons. Even without the wide receivers, there's still meat on the bone there for fantasy. Defenses to stream really quick, and then we'll get to Carlos's question. Then we'll do drops, and then we'll do start sits really quick.
Read his name. Why you got to cut his name off?
What, Carlos?
It's Carlos is God.
Oh, Carlos is God. Sorry, when I highlight the comment, Carlos is God. Morning, folks. James Conner, Kareem Hunt, Jordan Mason, or Nick Chubb in the flex.
James Conner, bro. James
Conner going up against
Conner.
the Dolphins. Yeah, Conner against the Dolphins is definitely the top of the poll there. I would say Kareem Hunt too would be another interesting guy to play. That's a great running back room right there. Carlos. That you are a god. You grab up all the great running backs right there.
Boy.
Goodness gracious.
I hope you picked up some good people on your receiving core at least.
Does being on the Jets help or hurt Devontae Adams?
It hurts him because that team is so confused, and that's where you go for your career to die.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Jets wide receivers are I don't know. Some of the vibes aren't good there. Chiefs versus the Raiders if you need a defense, and the Pats versus the Jets if you need a defense too. That could be a couple interesting.
Jesus God, the drizzle and shit scheme, the Jets versus the God. Man.
Yep. So let's do some drops really quick. I would say if you have Dalton Schultz at tight end, he's rostered in over 69% of leagues. Nice. He's got one finish as a top 20 tight end, Dennis. Snap percentage has gone down since the Nico Collins injury. So you would think that he would be on the field more. He'd be getting used more without Nico Collins. He's been tight end 26, and his snap rate has gone down without Nico Collins. I would say get this guy off your roster. I just don't think he's a viable.
He got to go bye-bye, but I think the Texans are confused too because that used to be where you went for your career to die too. But shout out to D'Amico Ryans, former Eagles linebacker, for getting things together down there. He's got a chance to do something special with C.J. Stroud. I think they just have a lot of fundamental issues of trying to fix things. Once they get Nico back, I think they'll be all right. They can spread the field a little more. But but that Schultz guy, he got to go.
Next up, Calvin Ridley, the wide receiver for the Titans. Even without DeAndre,
he gotta go.
I'm just not into the Titans passing attack. He's wide receiver 69 in fantasy. Second half, he might have some stuff there that could put you on but you're not starting him. But
Tennessee's got a receiver or a quarterback problem. They can't figure out what they want to do.
It's either Will Levis, who throws one embarrassing interception every week, or Mason Rudolph, who is Mason Rudolph. One top 45 finish all year, bad QB situation. Get rid of Calvin Ridley.
It's a really bad question, but do you think when it's Christmas time and his name being Rudolph, they play Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in the locker room?
100% he was bullied in middle school.
Dude, I just thought about that. And I'm like, for God.
And then I think I'm ready to have this conversation. I think a lot of fantasy owners are ready to have this conversation, Dennis. Quarterback 22 in fantasy. 8 interceptions this year. He's thrown a pick in every single game. Has not had a top 10 finish since week 12 of last year, which was also his last 20-point game. Dennis, do you want to play guess the quarterback?
You absolutely suck.
Are we talking about the clown Patrick Mahomes?
Bingo.
Here's my advice, Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to get very toxic. Benny, can I have the screen to myself for a minute and make sure you swallow that because you might spit the water? Get your dad into an alcohol program.
Oh my gosh.
Tell your wife to get on birth control.
Oh my God.
Tell your tight end to get off of the Taylor Swift train and throw the fucking ball. Stop doing this flashy behind the back. Get back to what you're good at. That's all you got to do. And maybe you'll be relevant again. Even though your Super Bowl versus the Eagles was a freaking fluke. Cut your hair, get a new hairstyle so that kid from college will stop trying to be you. And learn how to understand life and understand that your dad needs help because he's an alcoholic.
Oh my goodness.
You clown. Because you absolutely
suck.
and you right now are the drizzling. I feel better.
That was Mornings with Dennis on 302 Birds. There you go. Yeah, drop Patrick Mahomes on your team. If you have him, get rid of him. It's not looking good. I don't know if the rest of the season is going to look good. Their offense doesn't cater to him. I'd get rid of him. All right, so let's get into start and sits. We'll do the starts first. Actually, we'll do quarterbacks first. So start, sit, quarterback. If you have Kirk Cousins, I think this is the week to start Kirk Cousins versus Tampa Bay, potential shootout. Week 5, you played Tampa Bay, 35 points, over 35 points in that game. Tampa Bay averages 23.86 points per week given up to quarterbacks. Start Kirk. It's not even a primetime game, so you can start Kirk Cousins.
For the simple fact, Kirk is getting comfortable on that leg again. He's starting to understand what he can do and what his movements are. And once he understands that, as somebody that's had the injury on both knees, once you get comfortable and you know your limitations, that's when you become the most dangerous. And Kirk Cousins has been doing it for years in the NFL. When he's healthy, he is dangerous. When he's got people to throw to, he is dangerous. When he's got a running game that he doesn't really have to worry about anything, he is dangerous. Start him.
Who's your quarterback?
You start Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield.
Do you have a quarterback you want to start this week aside from Kirk Cousins, or
let's go Jalen
Hurts? Okay, that's a good pick. The quarterback to sit this week. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna try something here. I'm gonna go out on
Bo Nix.
Brock Purdy versus the Cowboys.
Bum.
Last 3 games without Debo, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Potentially he's without Ayuk and Samuel in this game. And the Cowboys are coming off a bye, potentially getting Parsons back. I think
Parsons is out.
Parsons is out. Okay, so they won't get Parsons back. But even then, McCarthy coming off buys, he's 3-1 in his career with Dallas coming off buys. I think this to me has the vibe of why did Brock Purdy not play well in this game? It has one of those situations. I would say if you can avoid starting Brock Purdy this week,
I just want to know when people in this league are going to come to the realization that Brock Purdy is an overrated bum. He's bailed out by good players around him. That's it. He is not a good quarterback. He's not. He's average at normal. He's not a Patrick Mahomes. He's not Jalen Hurts. Look. Tua is a freaking cripple and his brain is mush, and he's not even better than Tua. He's not better than Tim Tebow. Think about this. If you gave Tim Tebow the receivers that freaking Purdy has, Tebow's career would have been way different. Tebow had Michael Thomas.
So right now, Brock Purdy is... Now, I'll say this. Brock Purdy definitely benefits from the players around him. I think if you took Brock Purdy and put him in Carolina, he's not succeeding. No quarterback's going to succeed in Carolina, aside from maybe a handful. But Brock Purdy, I think if you put him in a lot of other situations, you wouldn't get the same level of production you do. Right now, Brock Purdy is fantasy quarterback 8. That's 9 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and I believe those interceptions have him. Yeah, he's tied for the 4th most interceptions this year, behind Jordan Love, Patrick Mahomes, Gardner Minshew, and tied with Baker Mayfield, all with 7 interceptions. So Brock Purdy, to me, I don't know. He's the type of if you have him on your fantasy team, are you excited that you have Brock Purdy? You're not excited you have Brock Purdy.
I'm shooting myself in the foot.
He's just the least sexy fantasy football player ever.
Purdy
if you're like, oh, I got Brock Purdy on my team, no one's like, oh.
I can say this because I'm single. I don't recommend you saying this because you're freshly married. Brock Purdy's like when you're standing at the altar and you
It's like
realize
like the guy that used to draft
Benny. Benny's having internet issues, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to deliver this. Brock Purdy is like when you're standing at the altar and the bride comes down and you're like, shit, why did I give up my freedom for this broad? Like that's that moment that you just like hope that the best man goes, I object, we gotta get out of here. Like that's what it's like when you draft Brock Purdy. Mm-hmm. Benny, do not agree to that. You're freshly married. Your wife.
The brother steps in for you. There is a player though I would start in this matchup against. There is a player that I would start in this matchup, and that is Rico Dowdle versus San Francisco. RBs have been fine against the 49ers, 17.43. You might not have to start Rico because there's no one on bye this week. But his best game so far, best running back game against the 49ers was the Rams, got 29 points on San Francisco. The worst game was Arizona, only got 11 from the running backs against San Francisco. Dowdle's riding a hot streak, 3 straight weeks of 10-plus points. I think this is a situation where if you have to start Rico Dowdle, some bad matchups maybe, or you're injury riddled, you can start Rico Dowdle this weekend and expect to get around 10 points. He has touchdown equity. And another player I'm saying start is Keenan Allen versus Washington. Keenan Allen, to me, in this matchup against the Commanders,
Grandpa.
Last 2 games, 11 targets, 9 catches. He old man. Easy, He's an old man.
Easy pop.
27 plus points, back-to-back weeks of 80+% snap rate. It'll be a shootout against Washington. I'm saying if you need a running back and a wide receiver, Rico Dowdle and Keenan Allen against Washington are 2 guys you can start this week, Dennis.
I mean, I guess.
What about guys to sit? So we'll do the sits real quick, and then we'll get to close out. We'll get to Jacob's question too. Jacob, we'll get to your flex question in a second. Hunter Henry versus the Jets. You can sit him. Jets versus tight ends. They've only allowed 28 catches.
I'm just giving you what I'm
this week if you can.
I'm not.
You're not starting. Well, if you don't have to start Bo next year, you don't. But I think if there's ever a matchup to do it, I mean,
can't start somebody I don't got, bro.
Jets versus
Lazard's
tight ends,
doubtful.
they average. Okay.
I'm just giving. You said give you what I had, so I was giving you what I had.
Yeah. Okay. Lazard, even that, I don't know if I'm starting Lazard.
He's doubtful though. He's doubtful. Zach Ertz, we could still put out. Zach Ertz has been putting up a lot the last 2 weeks.
Zach Ertz is looking good. I'm going to say sit Hunter Henry against the Jets, 30.86 fantasy points per game. The Jets allowed tight ends. He's just not a good matchup. And even though he's a popular waiver wire pickup, the Jets are going to do everything they can to shut that down. And then Sam Laporta versus the Titans. No Jameson Williams for Detroit, but the Titans just have allowed 0 touchdowns to tight ends this year. So, Laporta might not get that touchdown equity. And with the way that the Detroit offense is kind of based, I think that might be, it. If he doesn't get a touchdown.
One thing that we've learned about Detroit is very unpredictable and can come up with a lot of things. So, and they're playing with fire in their heart right now. With Hutch being out, them boys are pissed and they want to win. So, I wouldn't sleep on Detroit.
Yeah, I'm not sleeping on Detroit. It's just it's a matchup against Tennessee that I'm not thrilled about. Definitely start their defense though. Let's get to Jacob's question, and then Dennis will wrap the show up here because we got grocery shopping to do. We got football to watch. We have Tillman, Madison, or O'Dunes for a flex spot. What do you think?
O'Dunes. That's who I
You're saying O'Dunes. Okay.
Live it on the edge, baby.
Jacob, I'll say this. I'll say roll the dice with Tillman. Last week I liked it. I grabbed him in another league. I have him in my flex spot too. I would say roll with Tillman. I also have Madison in another league, and I'm not starting him this week. Madison against the Chiefs is just not a great matchup. But Odunze, not a bad pick, but I would say go with the upside, go with Tillman. He's the wide receiver, at least the wide receiver 2 for Cleveland right now. But all right, so that does it for our show. But Dennis, let's take it away, brother.
Can I have the screen? Can I have the screen? I want
You can have whatever you want.
So, shout out to my boy Jack, that master of ceremonies on the 302 Birds show. Hey, Benny, it's an outro, not an intro. Hit that motherfucking outro. Love you, Jack.
Taking a deep shot. Jefferson's got separation. And Jefferson still going.